Hello, welcome to the Kratom Sobriety Podcast. This is Charlie, and this week's interview is with Lauren. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, thanks so much. And how do you usually introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Lauren. I'm super outgoing, very energetic person. So I have 5 kids. I do everything to the extreme, and I'm just a go-getter. How's that?
It's great. My kids are teenagers. Where are your kids?
They're all teenagers as well. My oldest is 22. My youngest is 16.
All right.
So we had twins there too. So we had lots of kids all in 5 years.
Okay. I have 17 and 20, and one of them is rolling in right now, and I should warn him.
Go ahead.
I should warn him that I'm in the middle of a conversation. All right. I'm experimenting, asking some fun questions at the beginning. So what do you do to relax these days?
To really relax, I play Candy Crush, which is probably just this mindless zone out thing. But if I'm really stressed or I'm having a rough day, I'm just a runner. That's just what I do. I go out and run. That was definitely something I did a lot in early sobriety. Just running saved me. But that's something I do to calm my nerves. And I journal a lot. So that's another thing that I do a lot.
Okay. And I remember you reading that you're a marathoner.
Yes, I ran one marathon, so I could say I'm in that crew now. But most of the running I do is just for me. It's a race or anything, so it's more of a personal thing. But yeah, my fiancé runs marathons and really long runs. So when we got together, he sparked that love for running again.
Okay.
It's been a long time. So marathoner, I guess I'll claim it.
What is your Kratom quit date, and where are you today in your journey?
February 11th, 2025. So I am almost to a year. It's February 7th, so I'm just a couple days away.
Congratulations. And when we publish this, you'll be like a year and a couple days afterwards. So
That's great. What a ring in the year, right?
How did you first start off on Kratom?
The first time I took Kratom was in 2016. And I lived in Florida, and I had heard I was in a party scene drinking and stuff. And I had heard someone say that it was good for pain. I have chronic pain. I had back surgery and a couple back surgeries. And so I had tried that as a way to help with pain. And they also said it gave you a little buzz. Those capsules didn't do anything for me. So I didn't go after that for them. Then when I picked it up again, it was in 2024.
Before Kratom, did you ever have any issues with substances?
Yes, I did. I was a drinker my whole adult life. I'm actually almost 4 years sober from alcohol. That's another celebration to have. But yeah, I did. I took opiates pretty solid for a year. And that was a really rough time to come off of it. And I swore I would never go through that withdrawal again. Didn't know Kratom was going to do that. I did not know.
And did your Kratom use interact with your other substance abuse?
Initially, no, because when I took it in 2016, I took it while I was drinking, but it didn't really do anything. After, when I started back up again, it did trigger me it lit up something in me that I thought was gone. I wanted to take more things because I am an addict and I did have that problem before.
So instead of suppressing cravings, it actually triggered them in you.
Absolutely. As soon as I got that first feeling of that opiate reminder, I was back at it. I looked for pills and that kind of thing. It wasn't very successful. I'm a little afraid of fentanyl and stuff, but yeah, it did ignite that in me, definitely.
How did your Kratom use change over time and escalate?
When I picked it back up, I was about 9 months sober from alcohol. Was having a massive amount of pain. I guess it coincides with the running a lot to get through withdrawal. I was having pain, and I went into a gas station, and it was sitting there right next to the 5-hour energies. I picked up a little shot that had Kratom in it, and I knew that was good for pain. The bottle said great for pain and lots of energy, which is exactly what anybody I think wants, no pain and lots of energy. I took one, remember feeling, oh no, this is really good and bad at the same time. And one stopped working after a while. So then I would go in the morning before work and take two. And then I would like that feeling. And then maybe after lunch, I had a meeting at work. So then I would take another one and then one before I ran. So it would just escalated from there. And I got to the point where I was buying, I don't know, 8 or 10 shots a day. And that was right before I found 7-OH.
My Kratom use was similar. I started doing, after I turned 50, I tried CrossFit, which was a little nutty. And I found that if I did like a shot of Kratom before, I had less aches and pains, but eventually that dose didn't work. And then I would add other reasons to take it beyond that. At one point, I got up to taking 2 shots at a time too, because like one just wasn't doing it anymore.
Especially after a long run, or when I knew I was preparing for a long run and I knew it was going to be 10, 12 miles, I would take 2 and then have one waiting when I got back, just to
Okay.
make sure it didn't hurt the rest of the night. So it was definitely way out of control.
What was the transition from the extracts to the 7H look like?
So I was taking the shots and I lived in a very small town at that time. So there's 3 stores. I lived in an apartment and I could walk to a little store on the corner and they sold vapes and just chips and stuff, but they also had 708 shots or Kratom shots at the desk. And then one day I walked in and the guy was like, "Oh, this is stronger." And it was the 18 milligram chewable 7-OH tablets. And so I thought, oh, great. I'll just have to take one of these instead of 2 bottles. This will be great. It'll save me money. And that's not what happened. But that's my intention was like, oh, this will save money because they're expensive. And I found that I started going to other gas stations. Not everybody had it. So my lovely personality, I just wanted to share with these other people, you should really get this and sell it. It's really great. Actually, somebody took me up on that and he started selling it there because I told him I'd come and buy it. And I did. He made a lot of money off me.
Yeah. Did you eventually get like embarrassed and start? You're in a smaller town, but like I would rotate to 7 different stores in the metropolitan area just because I was embarrassed by how much I was buying.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The people that knew me there, because it was such a small town, they knew I had kids. And yeah, I bought when I was drinking so much, they knew I was drinking. And because I said I'm so outgoing, they knew I was on a sobriety. They knew I was talking to them about not drinking. They knew that I took this for my back. And so I definitely would go to one after work and one in the evening and then a different one in the morning before work so that no one thought I was buying as much as I was.
So when did you realize, okay, this isn't a good thing? I'm crossing some kind of line. This is starting to cause a problem.
I think my daughter left college and moved back in with me, and she's in the medical field. And so she started saying things to me like, "Mom, I read about that. It's not good for you." Or, "Why are you buying so many of them?" Because she'd see them in the garbage. And I told her it was good for my pain. She backed off a little bit, but that was probably the first. I knew I shouldn't have been spending money on it, but that was really the first time where I thought, oh, this is looking bad to other people, especially because I was not even a year sober off alcohol. So I think that kind of triggered me to step back a little bit, maybe.
Were you doing any kind of recovery meetings or part of any abstinence community?
Yeah, I love AA. I'm part of AA currently right now. I actually called my sponsor the first time I took my first extract shot. And I called her and I said, this is something, it's weird. I know I can tell that it made me think about opiates. And she's a nurse and she said, I've heard of it. Not many people have in the medical field have heard of it. But she said, I'd just stay away from that. I wouldn't do it again. But I don't think any of us knew how addictive that this was. And so I said, okay. And I did for a little bit, but I kept taking it. And as I was taking more of it and I realized that it was becoming a problem, I backed off meetings and I started going to my meetings so much. I didn't really talk to her much either. And after a while, I just didn't go anymore at all.
How did things get towards the end? What was the worst of your use look like?
Like you said, I wanted to touch on that AA. Those people are understanding and they know what addiction is. And I'm sure that they knew. I told her what I had taken and then I backed off meetings. I'm sure that they know. They won't push recovery on you. but I knew that they knew. But it's crazy because there towards the end, I also knew who would be there. So in my process of just losing it and everything crumbling, that was the first place I went. I called them, I texted them, but it was too late at that point. I was getting ready to go get some real help at the hospital at that point. But the end, it looked like waking up in the morning with sweats and feeling sick to my stomach and really shaky. I was hiding it from everyone. I was hiding it from my partner, from my fiance. And so people didn't know, but I was waking up sweating. So then I started to get the great idea to take it in the middle of the night. So I didn't wake up feeling the amount of money I was spending was so outrageous, so outrageous. And so my bills were piling up. My credit card was maxed. My car payment had been missed. I got in a car wreck. This just massively snowballed into not having a car, wrecking my mother's car, all being under the influence. And I wasn't necessarily spinny like alcohol does, just careless, looking at my phone and just taking it for granted a lot more because I was high. And it ended up, if you pulled out a drawer, there would be packages of 708 shoved under my clothes. And I had to have that. And that would be the first thing I would do. I would drop my kids off at school and go straight to it. And then at the end, I was also just seeking out things to get me high because it just triggered me right down that path. I never did drink again, which is nice, but I did go look for other things, which just compounded me to have a total ruin at the end without a car. I ended up, my kids were not in a good situation with me. They're teenagers, but they both were scared for me and scared to be there. So they went with their dad. And the last day I used, I almost was in the psychosis kind of thing. I had crazy wild dreams, a little bit of hallucinations, I would say. And now remember, I'm taking a lot of this. I took a lot of 7-OH. I probably was maxed out at 600, 700 milligrams a day of 7-OH. It was a lot. They come like the 80 milligram tablets now before they banned it. But so the last day was really rough. And I remember looking at my fiance and crying, I need help. I need help. And my son actually called my family and they called 911. The ambulance came. At that point, I was feeling like I was ruining everyone's life. And I just thought it would be better if I wasn't there. And the minute I said that to the EMS, I went to the hospital, and that was the best decision that I could have made. And I don't think I could have done it without my higher power helping me to come to this breaking point. But so I ended up in the hospital where no one knew what it was I was telling them I took. I went to the mental health area of the hospital. I stayed there for 3 days. I kept trying to tell them why I was sick and all these things. And they didn't know what it was. And they had to Google it right there in front of me to find out what it was, which was very disheartening when you try to get medical help and they don't know how to help you because they don't know what substance you're on.
That's really serious, having one of your kids have to call, and it must have been really upsetting.
It was. And I was just so broken. I just was sitting in the floor crying and I didn't know what to do. I was just stuck. And I know that addicted feeling. And I just couldn't, I didn't think I could have gone on if I didn't have it. And I couldn't have it anymore because it was killing me. So it was just that one, it was a fork in the road. And I'm glad that it ended up the way it did because it could have gone so much worse. And yeah, like telling the doctors, my sons right now are wonderful. And the ones that were there to experience it, they get to see a year now. And they get to understand that there's life after addiction. And for them to realize that there's stuff that's so easily accessible. That stuff was right there for anybody to get. And so I'm glad, that it ended up the way it did. And my sons are wonderful and very forgiving because they see where I'm at now. But it was really bad. It was not good.
And now it's in the rear mirror. It was a year ago.
Yeah.
And lots of upside now. And you are in a state where they did take emergency action and it's off the shelves, at least in your state.
Yes, absolutely. I was so glad when I went in to grab a new vape, and next habit that needs to stop. But I went in to grab a vape and I saw it and I looked, and that's something interesting after you're getting over an addiction. I know alcoholics understand this too. It's there. It's everywhere. And when you walk in to get a vape, there it is. It's everywhere, all kinds of stuff that you can get. And then it was gone. The whole leaf powder still sold in some of the stores, but it was gone. And I said, where did it go? And they said, it's illegal. And I just breathed a sigh of like, finally, they're understanding. Finally, someone's getting that this is such a serious health risk for people.
The accessible drugs, the legal drugs, nicotine, alcohol, and kratom in many areas, there is about the accessibility and being sold everywhere. It makes it harder to quit. It makes it harder to quit. And the illegal things, there is a lot of effort you have to put into trying to obtain those, and there's dangers in that effort. So there is a hurdle there that can prevent many of us from going down that road, but the legal drugs can be tough.
Yeah, it's so deceptive because it's right there. And I was not looking to get high. When I was clean and sober and I was feeling so great, I wasn't looking to get addicted to anything else. I was so free. And then it was just right. It was just right there. And yes, people would say, why would you take something from the gas station? Or why would you think that's a good idea? I don't know. Why would you drink a 5-hour energy? You just feel like it's safe. It's being sold there, but it was not at all. And I know that I'm not out in the streets looking for hard drugs. And I'm sure that a lot of people that get addicted to this stuff, they're not. We're not people that would cross that barrier or that line. But when my concern was when people got so addicted to 7-OH as I was, the withdrawals were so much similar to opiate withdrawals that I thought, man, if somebody was so desperate, they may have gone and looked for that stuff just to take those withdrawals away.
Or because 7-OH is so expensive that it's almost cheaper to get something at least that's more powerful. The risk with fentanyl and how stuff is cut nowadays, it's way more dangerous. But let's see. So you found yourself in a hospital. How did your quit proceed after that?
I was real sick in the hospital. My parents had meetings with people outside. I didn't know this while I was there because I couldn't really talk to many people, and they gathered that it would be good for me to come stay there, which God bless them forever, because I was so adamant at that point of not going to an inpatient. I had just lost my job through all this because of my erratic behavior. And if I would have just gone back to my apartment and had to pack up and everything, it would have been bad. So I went to my parents. I stayed there. I'm still there currently until I get married in April. So they stepped in. I spent the first month sleeping a lot and eating a lot because when I took the shots and the 7-OH especially, I didn't like to eat. I didn't need to. I'd lost a lot of weight and I was just unhealthy, but led me to other drugs, as I said. So there was a whole mix of things that I was having to come off of. But the 7-OH, I promise you, I've come off of other things. And that is the hardest thing I've ever had to try to stop taking. So I went through that for the first month, just like I said, eating and sleeping, and then trying to recover some normalcy with thinking and the way I felt. My emotions were all skewed because of this length of time, which start to end, it was about a year and some months that I took Kratom, not very long, and 7-OH, it was only about three or 4 months that I took that, but to come off of it was hard. So the first couple months, my body physically was trying to recover. And then we started touching on the emotional, just trying to figure out why did this come back? And I created like my own inpatient treatment. So I go to a counselor twice a week, and then I went to AA every day, sometimes twice a day, because I didn't have a job right then. And that was my life, was recovery for the first, I'd say, 7 months after. I was very blessed to have that time to throw myself into recovery. And I think that was the most amazing gift that I could have been given. So that's what those first couple months, I was sick. There were still thoughts of it. It's a very obsessive thing to have an addiction. So that was a real thing even after I got clean and I knew how bad it was. It's still, especially with chronic pain, you still feel pain and there's something that's right around the corner that can fix it. So that can be hard to come off of. It's really a sad thing.
So it sounds like because you were in a hospital, you had the forced cold turkey and
Yeah, that was rough. That was really rough. I didn't have the gastrointestinal issues, which I'm very thankful for, but I did the shaking and the cold sweats and the chills and I couldn't sleep. And just, I would ask them for something at the hospital, please just give me something to calm my body that wouldn't stop moving. And they were really skim on that because they wanted me to completely get rid of everything. Yeah, the 3 days in the hospital was a blur. And then even when I got home, it was only 3 days later. A lot of that I don't remember either.
how were you like a month off? What kind of symptoms were you having?
A month off, I still physically the sweats and things like that were almost gone. I was still really tired, really tired. That lasted for a while. A month later, it was more like those obsessive thoughts, those compulsive, that didn't go away very easily for me anyway. Some people, they're able to move past that, but for me, it wasn't easy to get over. So a month after I felt physically better, I started running again, which kind of gave me that natural release of endorphins and things. So that helped. And I had the energy to do that. But I feel like it was a really slow dig. And I don't know if that's because I'm older this now that I had to come out of it, but it was slower than I wanted it to be. But the first couple weeks were the worst, hands down.
Was there anything other than running that helped?
Yes, I went to the meetings, helped me tremendously. I went to a noon, I went to a 10 a.m. meeting, and then sometimes I went to 5:30 meetings. And just being there, even for an hour, just listening to other people share about what their experiences were like, even if it wasn't with 7OH, because as far as I know, nobody I know personally has taken it. But the other people in the meetings, they've had addictions, so they understand. So that helped tremendously, a lot. And then just having a good support group. I had a lot of really good people in my life that just stuck by me, listened to me cry. And at that point, a month in, I wasn't really seeing my kids at all. My boys had some trauma there, seeing me go through all that. And they just needed a
Mm-hmm.
minute to figure out how they were feeling. That I don't know how in depth, but children's service was involved because
Okay.
I don't know who called about that, but it doesn't really matter. But they were involved just to make sure that I was safe and they were safe, which was fine. I'm a wonderful mother and I know that. So when that substance is out of my system, I was fine. And they saw that. I did opt for random drug tests after that. And I did ask them to test for Kratom, which it's actually a very expensive test. They don't test for it as normally.
Yeah.
If I requested them to test for that so that I would have that documented. And they said they would do it, but it is an expensive test. Not many insurances cover it.
Okay. That's really serious. You had the 2 car accidents, you lost your job, you end up in a hospital, the child protective services are involved in your parenting. It's not, it's pretty bad consequences.
It was really bad consequences. Yeah. And I'm thankful for them today. In that time period, 3 months in, and my kids were my life, and having to be very careful about how much I reached out to them every day. You've got this, mom. You're strong. You can do it. I have those text messages saved, and they will forever mean the world to me, that encouragement from them.
You talked about listening to the podcast a lot. How did you find out about it? And what did hearing other stories, how did that help you?
Absolutely. I should have said that sooner. When I started running, I got clean from alcohol. And during that time, I started finding podcasts about alcoholism and in addiction. I just typed in addiction and things would come up, but I started typing in Kratom anywhere to find anyone that knew what I was talking about, really. And this came up when I typed in addiction and Kratom, and this came up in my podcast search. And I clicked on it and I've listened to every episode, some of them twice. And I just loved knowing that other people had been through this, because at that point, even up until that point, I just didn't know, was I the only person that had my whole life fall apart because of this stuff? And so I got to hear that, which I shared your podcast with so many people I talking to an online counselor, and I shared it with that whole counseling app to reach out and let people know, because they said they're having more people come in, and it just really helped. I listened to it at night in bed. I listened to it while I was running. I listened to it in the car, just about any time I could to get it into my head and listen to other people and how they got off of it. I listened to people put it in lock boxes and taper themselves off. And that was really cool. I never thought of that. So there was a lot of good ideas about how to quit on here that I didn't even think about. I wish I would have found it while I was still using.
I'm glad you found it. And so you know that you're not alone. You're not like some kind of wacko person that only happened to you. It's the chemicals in Kratom itself, but especially in 7-OH, just pharmaceutically interact with your brain chemistry. And we have to take responsibility for our own addictions, but it's a natural reaction to an opioid like substance.
Yeah, absolutely. And this podcast has triggered me to listen to other people and learn about this whole process. My sponsor is a toxicology MD. So
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that when I asked her to be my sponsor, but God knows. And she and I talk a lot about it because she didn't have a whole lot of knowledge. And I told her to listen to this podcast and to listen because there's other people's lives that have been affected by this. This has been my podcast. People laugh at me all the time because I always have it on. Always. So.
Did you have any close calls or to like where you thought you might end up using again?
After I stopped the first 3 months, I was like so turned off by any thought of that. I thought about taking it, but then there was always that automatic no. About 4 or 5 months after, I think I went in to get a vape one time and I saw it and the thought crossed my mind, as with any addiction, no one would know, first of all, or this would help, I'll just do it this once, or those kind of thoughts come in and I had to walk out and leave and not put myself in that situation. I had people go into the vape store with me so I wouldn't buy it or take pictures of my receipt or whatever I had to do to be accountable. But yeah, that thought, it still has crossed my mind. I'm so grateful that it's not on the shelf. I can tell you that. I'm glad
Yeah,
it is successful now.
that must have been a relief when you heard that. And how long were you along when that happened?
Let's see. It's about 10 months. I had heard talking about it about 7 months. Someone had said something or it had been on the news. But when they finally cracked down, so it was just a couple months ago, but it's still, a year is a year and it's something to be proud of, but a year is still just a year. And it's definitely something that would have been ongoing. It would be hard. Alcohol's hard enough. It's all over everywhere, but this has definitely had a bigger hold on me, myself. And so I'm glad it's not there. There was one time I was in a lot of pain and it was the middle of the night and I was just crying because I knew exactly what would take it away. And I just was so sad because I knew what would take it away and I couldn't have what would take it away. So it was one of those times where it's just, you just have to say what pain is better, because I'd rather be in physical pain in my back than the pain of what I had faced this past year. And even before this past year, the pain I faced even while using, the consequences and the hiding and the lying and the broken relationships it's not worth it.
Do you have some thoughts about people who might have fears or misconceptions about trying to quit that might have at the beginning that you've learned along the way that maybe you don't have to have?
Fear of trying to quit. I was afraid to quit because of the withdrawals, because they were, and then also the pain would come back. I can tell you from my experience that taking 7-OH for pain helped when I was on it, but the minute it went away, my pain was way worse than it is right now, clean. Not having it in my system, I still have it, but the pain was worse when I took it. And I know that's almost like an oxymoron, like you should be taking this to make it better, but it made it worse. So stopping taking it is not going to make your pain worse. That was something I was afraid of. Once it went away out of my system, it was better than I thought it would be. So that's one thing. And then you don't need it to sleep. I always thought it would help me relax and help me sleep. And it's so much better without it. I don't know. I did fine without it before and it's better now. I didn't need to take it to sleep or to have extra energy. I thought it made me perform better at work. And it's not the case. I was afraid to quit taking it because of social interactions. when I talked to people, I felt like I was more energetic and socially involved, and my emails sounded better. And it's just not the case. I stopped taking it, and I'm so much more clear headed now and able to take care of the tasks that are in front of me, when I thought Kratom was actually helping me with that.
Yeah. Is there any other positives now that you're off the Kratom and off 7OH? Good things about being Kratom free?
I have money in my bank account, which is one good thing. I definitely feel more mentally stable and aware after I hit that breaking point of switching from the extracts to the chewable tablets. It was just I didn't feel right in my head, and I feel clear now. I feel better in the morning. I want to wake up in the morning, and it's not the first thing I think about when I wake up. It would always be when I woke up, it would be the first thing I thought about was, when can I get it? How am I going to get the money to get it? Am I going to get enough for that day? All of
Mm-hmm.
those thoughts. And it takes up so much of our brain space to think about that. And I have so much more time to think about my life now. I have time to think about it. And one big fear for me being a runner was, I'm not going to be able to run long distances anymore. And that wasn't true either. And I remember saying the first long run I went on after getting off of Kratom 7OH was, I got to run this so that I know I can do it without the drugs. And I did. And I ran it, and I didn't have it was okay. I did it, and it was fine. And so that fear was it was a misconception.
I'm glad you have running still and that your pain isn't unmanageable. That's important for people to hear that. And so
I can still do that. And yes, it does still hurt, but it hurt worse when I took it. It's crazy to say that, but that only happened when I came off of it, to look back and see that it took away the pain during the run. But after and before, I had to dose so much to do that. And now it's definitely something I can still do, and I do it better now. I listen to my body more because I think I was masking the pain and I wasn't listening. And so I could have hurt myself a lot worse.
I've heard that with Kratom users running through injuries and making an injury worse. And then I think, the pain control, your pain threshold changes if you're having these substances in you, and then your body's natural ability to manage pain relief is muted or something. So all that, obviously, these drugs, they have a purpose for acute pain, and nobody should be in misery. And I'm glad that we have opiates.
Necessary at times, right? Yeah.
If I'm in a horrible car accident, please
Yes.
connect me to the morphine, but daily use, repeated.
But it changes that pain threshold. And not only that, but when I took 7OH and I went to the hospital one time for my back, they tried to give me something for it, and it didn't help. It was almost like I had built up such a tolerance that
Wow.
medical stuff didn't help me.
Wow, medical grade pharmaceutical opioid narcotic didn't touch it, huh?
Nope, it's like my tolerance was all messed up and it wouldn't help. So that's another thing to be very cautious about. If you did get in a car wreck and you were actively using high doses of this other opiate metabolite or something, that you would maybe not have the help that you needed.
I know we were talking about some heavy stuff here, but I like to change gears a little bit towards the end and have some lighter stuff. Do you have any? It sounds like you're getting married. Is it the spring?
Yes. Yeah.
Congratulations.
We're getting married in April. And honestly, that has been just an awesome testimony of love. It's February, right? We can talk about that Valentine's Day love.
Oh, yeah.
He stuck with me through all this and watched me go through it all. And we get to celebrate a year and then celebrate a wedding. And that's really exciting for us. So now it's just about getting all the loose ends tied up and all that, which I'm clear-minded to do, which is always good.
Any honeymoon plans?
I'm not sure yet what we're going to do. We would probably like to save some money and then go. We would like to go to Europe. We've talked about that. So yeah, that would be a good thing to do.
Cool. And with the amount of money sounds like you were spending, you can fund a trip to Europe.
Right. Yeah. It was a lot of money that I was spending and thousands of dollars that I was spending that I can use now for much better things.
Well, it was in between January and March of 2023. It was about 8 weeks. I did the math. I looked at my bank account and it was $3,000 that I spent. And that was just extracts. At that time, that was the Kratom extracts was the most potent thing that you could do. But
Yeah, and those are expensive. $10, $12 for a bottle. You're buying 5 a day. It's just
yeah,
insane.
yeah,
Would never go buy like $12 sweater 5, 6 times a day and have my closet full of clothes,
yeah.
or spend that
This,
on little things.
it's ridiculous. Looking back at just like how ridiculous that was. But
I know. And at a point we do it because we feel sick. We feel like we can't go without it. I did. I felt like I couldn't do anything without it. It was to the point where holidays, I can't go to Christmas without something like this. Yeah, the money was insane. The money, I haven't looked yet at my bank statement. I don't even want to see it.
if somebody's listening right now and feels stuck and they can't quit, do you have any suggestions?
Yes. If you feel stuck now, and I'm not trying to be if you're stuck now, it doesn't get any better. If you wait until tomorrow, it's just harder tomorrow than it was today. So if you are stuck now and you feel like you are, find a person. I promise that not everyone is going to judge you and look at you bad. There are groups that you can go to, and it doesn't matter if anybody knows what Kratom is. It's okay. They know what addiction is. They know what their life falling apart looks like and trying to regain that. So my suggestion is to find somebody, talk to somebody about what you're going through. Do not let it stay in the dark, because stuff that's in the dark, it just grows. And there's help in that. There's help in just verbalizing, I need help. This is hard. And just know that there's all these people on this podcast, and every one of us have been there, and every one of us are here now. So there is a way out.
And a lot of people report it's not universal, but it's not as bad as it seems like when you're in the moment, saying goodbye to this and imagining managing without it. It ends up, the withdrawals are not fun, but they don't last forever. And most people say, I wish I would have done it sooner.
Yeah. I thought there was a time, even before 708 started, I was taking the extracts where I thought, should probably stop this. Oh, I don't want to feel bad. I probably would have felt a lot, even if it would have been hard, it wouldn't have been as hard as me going on and on. So that's why I say, if you feel like there's a problem today, try to address it today, because tomorrow it'll just be harder. And yeah, the withdrawals do go away. I don't walk around today thinking, I wish I had some Kratom, or that hurts, I know what to fix it, or it doesn't pass through my mind now. It's been a year, and I can honestly say that it's not something I have to live in chain to anymore. So it's so worth getting just real with yourself, looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I have a problem. It's okay. I can get through it. It doesn't have to control my life.
Do you have any parting words? Something I didn't ask that I should have?
No, I think that was a great interview. I'm just so very grateful to be on here. I've wanted to do this for a long time, been too nervous. I've been scared, and I feel like this was just another step in my recovery to just want to help other people, if they're listening, to know that there is life after this. And if it just helps one person, that makes my heart happy. So I'm really grateful that you've given me this opportunity.
You did a wonderful job, and we both of us canceled on each other, and we finally were able to have the interview. And we're hoping Lauren is asked to volunteer with the podcast, and so she might be interviewing some of you out there in the listening audience. Eventually, we've gotten inundated since January 1st with almost like 30 inquiries. So even if we did one interview a week, that's going to be most of the year. So please be patient with us. We're trying to get through the list. And just congratulations, Lauren. You'll be hitting your official year this week.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. And I guess, the day this published, it'll be a year. So, okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.